The last one to give up. Dakota never thought she would be standing in the middle of an empty room, clutching the last key to a long-decayed relationship. The late afternoon sun shone through the glass windows, casting a pale yellow glow across the wooden floor, where laughter, running footsteps, and arguments that seemed like they could be mended with love had once echoed. But this afternoon, there was only silence, heavy as a curtain over her heart. Dakota took a deep breath. In that moment, she realized what she should have known all along, a truth so cruel it made her weak. She had believed in Jamie's love for too long, so long that she had lost herself. The first days were like magic. Jamie had entered Dakota's life like a cool summer breeze. They met at a local art gallery. Dakota had just stopped by to relieve her boredom, while Jamie was deep in discussion with her friends about the iconic paintings. Dakota wasn't the type to be drawn to loud noises, but when Jamie laughed, a warm, easy laugh, she turned her head. "What do you think of this?" Jamie asked, seeing her standing in front of a deep blue painting. Dakota was startled, but then smiled. "It's like that feeling when you know you miss someone, but you don't know what to call it." Jamie looked at her, his eyes bright. "I've never heard anyone describe it that way before. Nice." The remark, in a way, touched Dakota more than she would have liked to admit. They talked for most of the gallery, Jamie talking about her travels, her plans for the future, her dream of opening a small Nordic-style cafe. Dakota talked about her graphic design work, her passion for sketching, the days when the world felt too loud and she just wanted to find a small corner to breathe. Jamie listened, really listened, and that was something Dakota had never experienced before. The days that followed seemed to pass by in a magical way, spontaneous outings, long evenings watching movies on the old sofa, affectionate goodnight texts. Jamie had a way of making Dakota feel important, like she was the only one he wanted to be with. Dakota began to believe that this was the kind of love people talked about, gentle but deep enough, simple but lasting enough. The first crack. But love, like the paintings Dakota used to paint, sometimes had streaks of color that no one saw from the beginning. The first crack came on a rainy evening. Jamie promised to pick her up after work, but an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours passed. Jamie's phone was dead. Dakota stood under the porch, a feeling of abandonment creeping into her chest. When Jamie emerged, drenched, his breath reeking of alcohol, Dakota only had time to ask, "Where are you going?" Jamie frowned. "Can't you wait a minute? I'm busy, that's all." "But you said." "I know what I said." Jamie shouted. "Can you stop nagging me every time I don't do what you want?" Dakota froze. This wasn't the Jamie she knew. The next morning, Jamie apologized. He said he was stressed out at work, that last night was an accident. He held her tight, kissed her forehead, and said, "I love you. Don't leave me." Dakota forgave him. Because that's what love was, not perfect, but trying. She didn't know it was just the beginning. Forgotten promises. A month passed, then 2. Jamie's lateness grew more frequent. Text messages became fewer and fewer. Dates were cancelled at the last minute. Apologies became as hollow as old music. Dakota tried. She told herself that everyone had their ups and downs. But gradually, she found herself living in a twisted version of love, one where she was the only one keeping the ship afloat. Once, when Dakota suggested they take a weekend getaway to rekindle their romance, Jamie just smiled. "Do you think we're still a newly romantic couple? I'm so busy." The words felt like an invisible slap. Dakota looked at him for a long time, but Jamie didn't look back. His eyes were always on his phone screen, on his work, on anything but her. Dakota changes. Dakota used to be independent, confident, and knew what she wanted. But with Jamie, she became hesitant, vulnerable, and always trying harder than she should. She began to wonder what she did wrong. She changed the way she dressed because Jamie told her she wasn't sexy enough. She skipped Saturday night art classes because Jamie said, "I'm free that night." She backed away, giving way to his priorities, his life, his plans. What did she get in return? Coldness. The words cut like knives. "You're too sensitive. You're overreacting. I don't always have to babysit you." Every time Dakota was hurt, she made excuses to Jamie. That he loved her so much, that people change under pressure, that she just needed to be patient. But in reality, she was the one holding on. Secret. One night, Dakota found concert tickets in Jamie's coat pocket. 2 tickets. She didn't know about the concert. Jamie hadn't said where she was going that night. Dakota's heart clenched, but she didn't make a fuss. Maybe she was afraid to find out the truth. The next day, she asked softly, "Where did you go last night?" Jamie didn't meet her eyes. "I went to see a client." Dakota held out the ticket, her hands shaking. "What is this?" The air froze. Jamie bit her lip. "I went with friends." "Which friends?" "It doesn't matter." Dakota was silent for a long time. Then she asked, hoarsely, "If you don't love me anymore, just say so. I won't keep you." Jamie looked at her, his eyes filled with an unreadable emotion. But instead of confessing, he sighed. "You're always negative. Why can't you trust me?" The question stung Dakota to the core. Because all this time, she had trusted him more than she trusted herself. The final blow. The relationship lasted a few more months. No more big fights, no more long apologies. Just distance, silence, and a kind of repetitive hurt that left Dakota exhausted. Then one winter evening, Dakota came home earlier than she'd planned. She heard Jamie in the kitchen, his voice softening in a way she hadn't heard in a long time. And then she heard a woman's name. Dakota stood frozen in the doorway, a chill running down her spine. She knew she'd lost. Lost in a fight she should never have gotten into in the first place. When Jamie spotted her standing there, a look of panic crossed his face. But Jamie quickly regained his composure. "You shouldn't have listened in," he said. Dakota laughed, a tired, bitter laugh. "You don't need to listen in to know I'm gone." Jamie didn't answer. She packed her things in silence. Jamie watched, but didn't try to hold on. No explanation, no tears. Dakota understood more clearly then than ever. If someone truly loved you, they wouldn't let you go in silence like that. When the truth comes out. Weeks after leaving Jamie, Dakota lives in a small apartment where she can hear the wind through the window every evening. She starts drawing again, takes long walks in the park, finds the pieces of herself she lost. One morning, in her diary, she writes, "My biggest mistake was not loving Jamie. It was believing in his love for too long." Dakota used to think that love was perseverance, acceptance, and tolerance. But now she realizes, love is also knowing when to stop when you are no longer appreciated. That relationship did not bring her to a happy shore, but it helped her grow up, become stronger, and become clearer about her own worth. The light at the end of the road. Spring came, bringing warm winds blowing into Dakota's life. She found a new job at a larger design studio, met new friends, and took the art classes she had abandoned. One day, at her first solo show, Dakota stood in front of the main painting, a blue one, with long streaks that symbolized pain and rebirth. A middle-aged woman looked at the painting and said, "It feels like the artist loved deeply, but also fell apart." Dakota smiled. Yes. But then she got back up. And now she loves herself more than before. That night, when Dakota walked out of the gallery, a gentle breeze blew through her hair. She felt strangely peaceful. Not because she had forgotten Jamie, but because she had learned to let go. Jamie returns. One rainy evening, as Dakota was making tea, the phone rang. The caller ID, Jamie. Her hand froze. After a moment of hesitation, Dakota picked up. I just wanted to see how you were, Jamie said, his voice low and tired. I'm fine, Dakota replied. I miss you. Dakota closed her eyes. She could hear the truth behind those words. Jamie missed having someone love him unconditionally, not her. Jamie, Dakota said softly, you called because you were lonely. Not because you chose me. Jamie was silent. I wanted to hear that. But now that you've said it, I don't feel anything anymore. Dakota? I finally understand, she said, her voice calm. I didn't lose you. I just lost an illusion. She hung up. And for the first time in months, Dakota felt truly free. A personal epilogue. A year later, Dakota stood on the beach, watching the sunset turn the horizon red. The waves kept crashing against the shore, a rhythm as steady as time healing all wounds. She opened her sketchbook and sketched a few soft strokes onto the paper. A sentence appeared in her mind, as clear as a distilled truth. Believing in Jamie's love for so long was my biggest mistake. But through that mistake, I learned to love the most important person, myself. Dakota smiled. And she knew, from now on, her life would no longer be tied to an unworthy love. She had stepped out of the darkness. And that was enough.